They say the woods of Glenlochay once swallowed a regiment whole. No graves, no bones, just silence. Now and then, they still take. Ewan Calder wasn't the sort to scare easy. Raised on Highland myths but grounded in reason, he'd always believed that ghost stories were just that. Tales to keep children from wandering too far after dark. A former army engineer, Ewan had returned to the Highlands, seeking peace and solitude after too many years in too many deserts. He thought the forest would be quiet. He thought wrong. It began as a routine hike. Late September, the trees burning with orange and rust. He planned a solo 2-day trek from Glenlochay through the remoter parts of Glenlochay, hoping to wild camp under the stars and shake loose the noise in his head. But around midday on the first day, he noticed something strange. There was a scent in the air, not pine or earth, but old stone and damp iron, like ancient cellars of blood-wet moss. Then came the path. It wasn't marked, but Ewan had a keen eye. He noticed a gap in the trees, where the brush was too neatly parted and the bracken oddly trimmed. Pale stones, almost bleached, lined either side of the trail, like bones arranged by careful hand. They curved inward as the path sank into shadow. His gut told him to turn back, but his pride told him otherwise. With a cautious breath, he stepped through. The shift was immediate. The air grew heavier, denser. Sound became distant, as though we were hearing the forest through glass. The birds were gone, the wind stopped, and then the light changed. No longer the amber glow of the Highland sun, but a grey twilight, despite the mid-afternoon hour. He walked for what felt like an hour, then 2. His watch had stopped ticking. His phone screen flickered and refused to unlock. The trail twisted through dark woods. Every few steps he saw more of those stacked stones, now bearing strange markings, scratches, spirals, symbols like weather-worn runes. At one point, he passed a standing stone, barely taller than himself, half sunk into the soil, carved with an ancient Celtic knot. And then, he began to hear the humming. High and soft, drifting between the trees like a lullaby sung by something that didn't know words. Sometimes ahead, sometimes behind. Always just out of reach. He called out, no answer, only the humming, and then the whisper. Just once. Ewan. He emerged back onto the roadside as the dusk fell. Disoriented, he stumbled toward a B&B in Bridge of Orchy, where he'd stayed years before. But the woman who answered the door gave him a blank look. Sorry, no rooms tonight. He insisted, sure she'd remember him. I think you've mistaken me for someone else, she said, gently shutting the door. Next came Glencoe. His flat key didn't fit. The building manager claimed no tenant by that name ever lived there. His bank card was declined. Unrecognised account. He wandered the street for hours, heart racing, ears ringing. Even the air tasted wrong. Empty. The next morning he visited his sister. She opened the door. Same auburn hair. Same tired eyes. But no recognition. Can I help you? She asked. shielding her young daughter behind her legs. "Emma, it's me. Ewan, your brother." She stared, and slowly her face twisted with unease. "I don't have a brother." He began unravelling. Records of his military service were gone. No doctor, no dentist, no childhood friends remembered him. He wasn't just being ignored. He was being forgotten. Completely, systematically. Even strangers on the street would pass him like he wasn't there. At first, they'd glance, then hesitate, then look past him, as if he was fading from reality in real time. Only once did someone stop. A homeless man, hunched under a railway bridge in Fort William, murmured, "You found the path, didn't you?" Ewan froze. White stones, old forest, singing trees? Aye, I walked it once too, years ago. But I turned back, I ran. You didn't, did you? The man wouldn't speak further. He just pulled a scrap of parchment from a pouch around his neck and pressed it into Ewan's hand. A crude drawing, like a child's rendering of a stick figure, surrounded by concentric circles. Beneath it, the word, dichotomy, forgetfulness. The final days were strange. Ewan tried to document his story. He scribbled it into notebooks, carved it into tree trunks, whispered it into voice memos. But the more he tried to resist the forgetting, the more the world rejected him. CCTV cameras didn't register him either. Dogs wouldn't bark at him. Shadows didn't fall where he stood. And each night, in his dreams, he saw the path again. Only this time, the humming in words. Old Gaelic, muttered like a prayer or a curse. Then came the silhouette. A tall, narrow figure standing at the trail's end, waiting. Not moving, not speaking, only watching. Ewan was last seen walking alone into Glenlochay just before dawn. No bag, no gear, no expression. Locals say the fog was especially thick that morning, and that if you go looking for him, if you call his name near the tree line, you might hear a faint humming in return. But if you follow him, God help you. The legend grows. Now hikers leave offerings of stone by Glenlochay's edge. Little cairns and trinkets meant to placate whatever lies beyond the path. Old folks say it's not the forest that takes you. It's the memory of you that walks. Like a rot that starts slow until your name, your face, your story is eaten from history itself. The trail doesn't always appear, but when it does, it's already chosen who it wants. Some paths are shortcuts, others are snares, set centuries ago, baited with curiosity and silence. And if the forest calls your name, don't answer, because once you take the forgotten path, the world forgets you ever walked it.